the day I washed my disciples' feet. The greatest king is the first to kneel. I took off his crown and picked up a towel. They were arguing about who was the greatest, so I knelt down and showed them that true greatness is found in a servant's heart. The air in the upper room was thick with the scent of roasted lamb, bread, and wine. It was the night of the Passover, a sacred and ancient tradition, a time to remember the liberation of my people from slavery in Egypt. It was a moment of profound significance, a final meal with the men I had chosen, the men I had taught and loved. My 12 disciples were gathered around the table, their faces familiar to me, a mixture of hope, confusion, and ambition. This should have been a moment of quiet reflection, a time for deep communion, but their minds were on something else entirely. Their ordinary life was a life of competition. They had been with me for 3 years and they had seen my power, my miracles, and my love, but they were still men of this world, and their hearts were filled with the same desires as everyone else. They argued about who would be the greatest in my kingdom. They debated who would sit at my right hand and my left, who would have the most power, who would be the most important. They were so focused on their own ambitions that they had forgotten the very essence of what I was teaching them. Their ordinary life was a constant struggle for position and recognition. They were fishermen, tax collectors, and zealots, men from humble backgrounds who had been given an extraordinary opportunity. They saw my kingdom not as a place of service, but as a place of power. They were still living by the rules of this world, a world where greatness was measured by status, wealth, and authority. They were so busy competing with one another that they failed to see the most important lesson I was about to teach them. They were so focused on their own elevation that they were blind to the needs of the one who was the least among them. The tension in the room was palpable, a silent current of ambition and pride. They were a family, but a fractured one, their bonds strained by a desire for greatness. Their ordinary life was a life of pride, of ego, and of a profound misunderstanding of what it truly means to follow me. They saw me as a king, but they did not yet understand the nature of my kingdom. They saw me as a master, but they did not yet understand the heart of a servant. The atmosphere in the room was heavy, but a moment of silence had fallen. I saw their faces, their hardened hearts, their closed minds. I knew what was in their thoughts, what they were arguing about. I knew that their pride was a barrier between them and the truth. So I rose from the table, not with anger, but with a quiet, deliberate purpose. The air crackled with anticipation. What would I do? Would I rebuke them? Would I put them in their place? Would I settle their argument? I took off my outer robe, the one that signified my authority as a teacher and a master. I wrapped a towel around my waist, the simple garment of a servant. The room fell into a stunned silence. They watched me, their eyes wide with confusion. What was I doing? This was not the act of a king. This was the act of a slave, of the lowest servant in the household, the one who was tasked with the most menial of duties. Washing feet. I poured water into a basin. I knelt down, and I took the foot of the man closest to me, a foot covered in the dust and grime of the Galilean roads. I took his foot into my hand and began to wash it. The crack was not a sudden burst, but a slow, persistent break in their understanding. The world they knew, a world of hierarchy and power, was being shattered by a single, humble act of service. The silence was broken only by the gentle sound of water and the rustle of the towel. I moved from one man to the next, patiently and methodically washing the feet of each of my disciples. They were a diverse group: Peter, the boisterous fisherman; Thomas, the skeptic; Judas, the betrayer, and I knelt before each of them, treating them all with the same quiet, profound dignity. I was a king, and I was washing their feet. I was the master, and I was serving them. The crack had appeared. The world they knew, a world where the great were served, was being replaced by a new reality. The crack was not just in their minds, it was in their hearts. They had been so focused on who would be the greatest, but they were about to learn that true greatness was not about being served, but about serving others. I came to Simon Peter, and he could not bear it. He was a man of action, a man of pride, and a man who loved me. But he could not reconcile the image of me, his master, kneeling before him with a basin of water. He blurted out, "Lord, do you wash my feet?" His words were not a question, but a cry of protest. He had come to a breaking point. The reality of my action was so contrary to his understanding of the world that he could not accept it. I answered him gently, What I am doing you do not understand now, but afterward you will understand. I was inviting him to trust me, to surrender his pride, to allow me to serve him, but he could not. His pride was too great, his understanding too limited. He said, "You shall never wash my feet." It was a moment of profound, painful opposition. He loved me, but he could not accept the radical nature of my love. My response was a solemn and serious word, a final challenge to his pride. "If I do not wash you, you have no part with me." My words were not a threat. They were a profound truth. His salvation, his very relationship with me, was dependent on his willingness to be served. It was dependent on his willingness to humble himself and to receive my love. His breaking point was a moment of decision. He had to choose between his pride and his salvation. He chose salvation. He said, "Lord, not my feet only, but also my hands and my head." He wanted to be washed completely. He had come to the end of his understanding, and he had surrendered his pride. He had come to the end of his human wisdom, and he had embraced my divine grace. The breaking point was not a moment of despair. It was a moment of profound, overwhelming surrender. He had been humbled, and in his humility he was made whole. The other disciples watched, their hearts now open and their minds ready to receive. They had been arguing about who would be the greatest, but they were about to learn that true greatness was not a matter of power or authority, but a matter of humility and service. The breaking point had been reached, and it was a moment of profound, overwhelming grace. After I had finished washing their feet, I took my outer garment, put it on, and returned to my place at the table. I looked at their faces, now humbled and silent, and I spoke to them. "Do you understand what I have done to you?" The question was not a test of their knowledge. It was an invitation to a different way of living. I had not only performed an act of service, I had performed an act of teaching. I spoke the truth that had shattered their pride. "You call me teacher and Lord, and you are right, for so I am. If I then, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. For I have given you an example, that you also should do just as I have done to you." The shift was a change in their entire worldview. Their hearts, which had been filled with ambition and competition, were now being filled with a spirit of service and humility. The shift was a movement from a heart of pride to a heart of humility, from a mind that was focused on being served to a mind that was focused on serving others, from a life that was about power to a life that was about love. I had shown them that my kingdom was not a hierarchy but a family. It was not a place where the greatest were served, but a place where the greatest were servants. The shift was a profound and radical reordering of their priorities. They had been so focused on who would be the greatest, but they were now beginning to understand that true greatness was not a destination, but a journey. It was not a title to be earned, but a life to be lived. They had been given a new way of seeing the world, a new way of living in the world, and a new way of loving one another. The shift was a movement from a life of self-exaltation to a life of self-denial. The purpose of this act was not just to demonstrate humility, it was to reveal the very heart of my mission and my character. I was the Son of Man, and I had come not to be served, but to serve, and to give my life as a ransom for many. This act of washing their feet was a microcosm of my entire life's work. It was a tangible expression of my love, my humility, and my sacrifice. I did not come to this world to be crowned a king, to be given a throne, to be served by the powerful. I came to be a servant, to live a life of humility, and to die a death of sacrifice. My life was a living parable, and this act of washing their feet was a summary of it all. It was a profound truth, a sacred mystery. It was a visual representation of my love for them, a love that would lead me to the cross. The purpose was to show them that true authority is not found in a scepter, but in a towel. True power is not found in a throne, but in a basin. True greatness is not found in being served, but in serving others. I was teaching them that the way to the top is to go to the bottom. The way to lead is to serve. The way to be the greatest is to be the least. I was giving them a new command, a new way of living. A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another. Just as I have loved you, you also are to love one another. My love was a serving love, a humble love, a sacrificing love, and I was calling them to live the same way. The story of washing the disciples' feet has echoed through the centuries, a powerful and timeless reminder of the nature of true greatness. The impact of that night has shaped the hearts of countless men and women, calling them to a life of humble service. It is a story that continues to challenge the proud, to humble the arrogant, and to inspire the faithful. It is a story that reveals the very heart of God. My act of washing their feet was a final lesson before my crucifixion. It was a final testament to my love for them. A love that was not passive but active. A love that was not about taking but about giving. A love that was not about being served but about serving. And it is this love that I call you to live. The world is still a place of competition, of pride, of people who are still arguing about who is the greatest. But you, my child, are called to a different way. You are called to be a servant, to humble yourself, to love others as I have loved you. Your greatness is not found in your titles or your status, but in the quiet, humble acts of service you perform for others. In doing so, you are living a life that reflects my own. You are showing the world that true greatness is found in a servant's heart. I see you, not just the person on the other side of this screen, but the heart behind the eyes. I know the weight you carry, the silent battles you fight, the dreams you've put aside. You've been searching for something, a purpose, a peace that the world just can't seem to give. You've tried to fill the void with success, with noise, with fleeting moments of happiness. But I'm telling you, true fulfillment isn't found in what you gain, but in what you give. It's a fundamental shift from taking to receiving my love and pouring it out. Now is the time. Not tomorrow, not when you have it all figured out, but right now. Every moment you delay is a moment you spend walking in a shadow when you could be walking in my light. The world is trying to convince you that you have all the time in the world, that you can put off true purpose. But I am here to tell you that every second matters. Your life is a precious gift, and it's time to unwrap it and live with intentionality. With a passion that comes from knowing you are deeply loved. I am the way, the truth, and the life. I am not just a historical figure or a good teacher. I am the living word, the source of all that is good, true, and beautiful. You can trust me. My words are not empty promises. They are living, breathing truths that have the power to transform your life from the inside out. I am not asking you to do this alone. I am offering my hand, my strength, and my guidance. All you have to do is take it. You are not an accident. Your struggles, your joys, your unique gifts, they are all part of a divine design. I have a plan for you, a path you were made to walk. No matter where you've been or what you've done, you are welcome here in my family. You are worthy of my love. Not because of what you've accomplished, but because of who you are. This isn't a club for the perfect. It's a home for the broken, and I am here to make you whole. You belong. So if my words resonate with you, if you feel a stirring in your spirit, I invite you to act. Let the Holy Spirit guide you. Let this be the day you choose to live on purpose. Leave a comment below, sharing one word that describes what you are ready to let go of. Hit the like button to declare your commitment, and share this message with someone who needs to hear it. This is not just a message. It's a movement, and it starts with you.